Hi, I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia. In case we all forgot, rent is going to be coming due in the next few weeks. Additionally, the protections for evictions, mortgages, or rental assistance that were covering millions of Americans who have not been able to pay their rents ended at the beginning of August, leaving people across the country in pretty desperate situations. This is what led President Trump to enact an executive order that, at least in name, extended some of those protections, but may not be exactly as comprehensive as the previous protections were under the CARES Act. This is primarily due to its design and the limited amount of power that President Trump has via his executive order. So tonight we are going to go over what is and isn't included in the Trump Eviction Protection Executive Order and how that may affect people who are behind on their rents. Now this is your 5-minute nightly dose, so let's make this quick. But before we do that, if you like this information, if you find it interesting, if you find it helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And that way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. Right from the very start, this executive order to stop evictions has drawn a lot of fire from housing advocates. Many housing advocates point out that Trump's executive order doesn't actually do much in the way of evictions or rental protections. According to Denise Yanel, president of the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, the executive order that he signed this week is really nothing more than an empty shell. Further, she says that the executive order does literally nothing to prevent or stop evictions. End quote. This is because the order doesn't actually extend the federal eviction moratorium that was put into place under the CARES Act. Rather, it just simply asks the Department of Health and Human Services and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to consider whether an extension to the eviction ban is necessary. Also, without mandating any new money to help renters and homeowners who have been behind on their payments for their rents and mortgages, the executive order does little in the way of helping anyone to avoid evictions. The primary reason this order falls short is because the limits of Trump's executive powers. The biggest of these limitations is the ability of the president to fund whatever provisions he orders. This is the job of Congress. So without congressional approval, Trump can order whatever he likes. Without the funds to drive these executive orders, not much is going to happen. So this empty order will not do much to help the 21% of Americans who were behind on their rent payments for the month of July. It also will not stop people from being evicted from their homes once the courts open back up. This is the case unless Trump can get Congress to rally to his cause, which at this point doesn't seem very likely. This would leave nearly 40 million renters in potential risk of eviction over the next couple of months if no solution is found. But fortunately, some states, counties, and cities have stepped up in their own local bans on evictions, which will add some wiggle room to those residents who are living in those areas. Despite the reality that Trump's executive order did not extend the federal eviction moratorium, there are still many states and cities and counties who have implemented eviction moratoriums locally. For example, here in California, the state has put a ban on evictions until at least the end of September. In some counties, like Sonoma County, which is up in the wine country, they have extended the moratorium up until 60 days after the declared end of the pandemic, which could potentially take years at this point. Unfortunately, there are still some states who still don't have any state eviction protections, and this leaves their residents who are behind on rent laid bare to landlords and the courts to levy evictions upon them as the months move into the end of the year. States like Nebraska, South Dakota, Texas, and a couple other do not have any state moratoriums in place to stop evictions. But even within the states that do have moratoriums on evictions, without rental and mortgage assistance in the executive order, these back due rents are still growing and will eventually come due, which could still leave millions of Americans with massive payments once the eviction ban ends, whenever that is. Now, I always try to be fair, and I generally think that the president, given his limited powers, is at least trying to shine a spotlight on these protections that really are an important part of keeping America afloat for the next couple of months, at least until the end of the year. But without actually having any real power to enact these orders, and making statements like, "We're stopping evictions," which the president said on Tuesday at his press conference, it only leaves people with the empty hopes of keeping their homes, especially in these states who did not pass their own eviction bans. And on face value, these kinds of statements are recklessly optimistic and misleading at best. So I really hope that there is some secret sauce that they got cooking up in the White House to help folks make it until the economy can reopen. Because without it, we could end up with not only a pandemic and an economic downturn, but also a homeless crisis on top of all of that. This has been your 5-minute nightly dose, and I hope that you found it interesting or helpful or at least useful. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. Also, we here at Carelifornia, we know health insurance. So if you have any questions about your health insurance, leave those down below. We'll be happy to make a new video or a new post as soon as we can. Now, other than that, I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia, wishing you a happy, healthy,